Hello and welcome to another Digital Leader Salon with me, Simon Valfish.
And me, Edward Rushton.
Thank you very much for joining us again. We really would love you to get involved in this project. Please do get in touch with us using the hashtag Digital Leader Salon. Look through our catalogue of recordings, which you can find on Spotify or all over the place, and tell us which song you'd like us to talk about, and we will do that. Edward, how are you?
Thanks, Simon. I'm very well. Yes. How are you?
I'm also fine, thanks.
Great.
Right, that's the small talk out the way. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're actually casting our minds and voices and fingers back a couple of years now, some years, to when we recorded a bunch of French songs for Nimbus. And that disc included 3 very wonderful songs by André Caplet, 3 settings of fables of Jean de La Fontaine. And we want to talk about one of these fables today. I'll tell you about Caplet as a composer in a minute, because I just love him, and he's written so many cool things in the music. As you can imagine, there's a wolf and there's a lamb, and the wolf is a fierce animal and the lamb is a very docile and sweet animal. So you've got a lot of both kinds of music in this song.
I don't want to put any spoilers out, but it does not end well for the lamb, does it, Edward?
Nope. Okay, so the song starts with this very fierce introduction, and the poet says, "Listen up, folks, might is right. If you're strong, you will always come out on top," and that's what we're going to talk about in this story.
Now we zoom in to this beautiful scene of a bubbling brook and a cute little lamb who's just having a drink, minding his own business.
So you hear these beautiful, idyllic, pastoral, you can see the green banks of the brook, you can see the little lamb going, hoppy, 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 hop. And he's having a little drink, you can hear the rustling brook, and everything is beautiful.
And who should come across but the wolf, who's very hungry and is looking for something to eat.
Yeah, so then the wolf talks to the lamb, and that sounds like this. "How dare you come here drinking my stream?" he says.
And then he says, "You will be punished for your boldness."
And then, Simon, we hear the lamb's voice for the first time.
"Sire," answers the lamb. "Sire, if your majesty would not be angry, but if he would consider that I came to have a drink in the current more than 20 paces downstream of His Majesty, I am not disturbing His Majesty's drinking."
But sorry, can I just interpolate one point here? I just love this, because you suspect that we identify with the lamb, the victim in this story. But the lamb is an absolutely terrible, goody-goody, teacher's pet, using all these long words, pompous. We don't really like the lamb either. The wolf is...
I like the lamb.
Oh, yeah, he's really annoying. Okay, so you can imagine how the wolf responds to that. What does he say?
"You do disturb my drinking," answered the cruel beast, cette bête cruelle, "and I know that you slandered me last year."
How could I possibly have dissed you last year? I wasn't even born. I wasn't even born last year.
Je tête encore ma mère. I'm still
suckling, I think.
I'm still suckling.
And the wolf says, I don't care, I don't care. Wait a minute. He says, it wasn't you, it was your brother.
And the lamb says, I haven't got a brother. Well, it was one of your lot.
One of your lot.
You don't leave me alone. You, your shepherds, and your dogs. I will have my revenge.
Yes.
Do you want to play some of the revenge
So
music?
the revenge happens like this. So, yeah, he's... the wolf comes along and eats the lamb.
Exactly. And then at the very end, we have simple chords, sans autre forme de procès, without any other kind of process.
Yeah,
Plonk. Plonk.
that's right. Yeah.
Edward, tell us a little bit about why you like this song.
Well, I love André Caplet as a man and as a composer.
I hope you'll be very happy together.
He was a complete genius, and Debussy knew that. He was very close friends with Debussy, and Caplet was one of the few musicians that Debussy really revered and appreciated. He didn't write much music. He didn't live very long either. But what music there is incredibly well sculpted. And this is the thing that attracts me most. I mean, not only, of course, it's brilliant and attractive and humorous and fun to play, fun to sing, very sensual as well. Some of the songs, that not the fables, amazing late romantic music. But like no other composer, he takes such great care about how he composes. And it's not just that he was pedantic about the way he composed, but you can tell everything he writes, every way he notates the music, there's a reason behind it. And it's in these songs, it's not just the musical signs, the accents, the rubatos, incredibly detailed instructions about how slow, how fast, with what kind of tempo changes. But also characters. He writes in words how he imagines the character of the wolf or the lamb should be sung. So, for example, you have to sing it one bit between your teeth, and you have to sing one bit incredibly ferociously. But as a musician, you can say he was just so careful, but in a good way, about how he wrote the music, how he notated it. And it's actually, speaking as a composer here, there's a great lesson to be learned from studying a score like this, because he writes everything in. Every little detail is there. Mm-hmm. So there's not much room to make any mistakes. You just have to do what he says, and you've already got pretty much, let's say, a perfect interpretation. If you just do what he says, obey in every detail what he writes. What happens then is, of course, that someone like you, Simon, and hopefully me at the piano, will invest our own personalities into it anyway, within the rigorous structure that Caplet has given us.
Without getting in the way, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but it works. It really works. I mean, I think we pretty much were very faithful to Caplet's text when we recorded these songs, but still, of course, you can hear very much your personality when you tell the story, Simon. So there's no conflict there. Some musicians get annoyed when the composer is too prescriptive. You know, say, let me, I make the interpretative decisions, give me some freedom here. But I disagree, because there's so much freedom to be yourself if you have the flair for the storytelling like you do, to do everything you want to within the framework that Caplet's given us. And I just find it so helpful, illuminating, enriching to be able to follow a score, to study a score that has so much attention to detail. A true craftsman, but more than that, really a true artist.
I would love to just share with our viewers some of Caplet's markings. So, at the beginning, he's written for the first one bar of singing, largement déclamé, declaimed largely, la raison du plus fort. And then he's written pessimiste, piano, est toujours la meilleure, is always the best. We're pessimistic. You know, the guy who shouts the loudest always gets what he wants in the end. So we've got largement déclamé, pessimiste, and then the piano comes in, bondissant d'indignation.
Yeah, so Caplet is even telling the pianist to play in a way that shares the poet's indignation about the fact that the wolf, the stronger person, will always be in the right. And he writes above this phrase in the piano part, bondissant d'indignation, jumping with indignation. So you have to play it sort of like this.
And then calm down, subito pianissimo, calme. And then it's written, avec une tranquille assurance, with a tranquil assurance. Nous l'allons montrer tout à l'heure. We will now show you. So it's like, okay, just sit comfortably, and the story will begin.
There's one detail that I want to share. This is extremely interesting. That will illustrate my point about Caplet's attention to detail. So I'm going to show the music to the camera. It might be backwards. I don't know. But anyway, you see here, this is actually a photocopy of the music that belonged to my professor when I studied in Zurich. And so all these markings are his. So he's put circles around all these rests. So what we've got is a crotchet here, a minim here, and two semiquavers here with staccato dots. So you have to play that exactly. So you come off here, this comes off earlier, this carries on through. Three different things going on at once. And if you don't do it precisely, there's no point. You know, you have to do it, because otherwise, why did Caplet take all the trouble to do that? Now, you wanted to tell us about the wolf's voice.
So here we've got the wolf. When the wolf comes in, we've had this lovely little lamb having a nice time. And then suddenly we've got loup. And he's written hemi-demi semi-quavers, or hemi-demi-wemi schlemmy wavers, staccato, crescendo to forte, but with a phrase line over the top. And then a really, really stonking, great big vertical accent on loup. The kind of accent which you could imagine hammering a blunt nail into a piece of wood. Thunk. And I think that's so cool. So on the next page, we've got, how dare you come and trouble my drink? Dis, cet animal plein de rage. And we've got this trill, and then a semitone down, rage, which is odd to ask a singer to trill a semitone.
And then go down for the last...
And then go down.
For the little acciaccatura there, at the end,
Another fascinating point of composition from Caplet is his asking the singer to literally, using a footnote, comme un léger bêlement, like a little bleat. He's asked the singer to go, mais plutôt qu'elle le considère, as this poor lamb is trying to explain himself in the most polite way possible to this cruel beast. And then again comes the beast. Tu la troubles. You are disturbing me.
The thing is, when you interpret these works, you can't really interpret them because it's all there. The interpretation simply consists of doing what it says on the page.
It's the pure recitation that's required. With something like this, where everything is written down, it's our job to absolutely stick to the letter of every instruction. And I absolutely love doing that because you feel much more secure in that kind of world when everything is, you just do what he says, and it's a much quicker journey into the mind of the composer when you're doing that as well, because you can see every dot of ink, you can read his mind as he interpreted this poem. And you can also, I can imagine he would have been reading this out loud over and over again. And then how can I notate this? How can I notate the way you go, tu me dis, ne sais pas. How can I notate this kind of growl or this lamb bleating or all of this stuff? I love this.
Simon, one thing that I wanted to say, when you said about getting into the mind. You can see inside the mind of the composer the way he's written this music. And you can hear him thinking about, how do I notate a certain way of speaking? And it popped into my mind something that I learned at school, which was, we were given Elgar as the composer to emulate when, in terms of how precisely he notated things with all the articulation marks. And Elgar and Caplet share this, I think. You can study their scores. Every note has instructions on it. And I must insist that I think this is really a good way to compose and is helpful to the performers and is enriching and is not a hindrance and inhibiting our freedom. But then I remembered that there's something that my dad told me, that Elgar was also very interested in notating precisely the way people spoke. And there's this thing where I think there's a little notebook where he wrote down something that his wife had said. He notated her speech, her indignant speech. Someone had called her Mrs. E. And she said, "I will not be called Mrs. E." And he wrote that down. And you can see in his sketchbook, he's written the stave, and he's, with all the little articulation and the dynamics and everything and the pitches, how Lady Elgar said that. And I think that's what Caplet is doing here. He's imagining, how is the wolf speaking? How is the lamb speaking? And I'm going to write that down. I'm going to nail it. I'm going to pin that way of speaking into the music, and then it will be forever. And all my interpreters are going to know how I want this wolf to speak, or this lamb. Now, just to sum up, I think what's important to say is that it's a lot of work to study a score like this, to learn how to perform it. You need to put in a lot of head time as well, studying all the marks and the rubatos and everything. But in the end, it feels like a great gift that we've been given from Caplet. That's what makes it such a pleasure. It's like the composer is next to you saying, play like this, trust me, it's going to work. And it does work.
That's a brilliant, brilliant way to sum up. So I think we have to wind up for this week. Edward, this is the highlight of my week. And thank you so much.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's a great pleasure.
What are we going to work on next week?
Well, we could wait for someone to request something.
Yes. So over to you, dear viewer. We would love to hear from you. Please request something from our recorded catalogue, and we would be very happy to talk about it next time. You can support us by subscribing, you can share the video, you can donate via PayPal, and you can buy signed copies of our CDs. All of the ways to do that will be underneath this video in the description.
Don't forget to listen to Le Loup et l'Agneau by André Caplet, which we've been talking about today, which is a masterpiece.
Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Edward.
Thanks, Simon.
Much.
Nous l'allons montrer tout à l'heure.